Hello everyone and welcome to yet another show on my channel. This one is a list show because we all know that everyone on the internet really just wants to see lists and then disagree with the people that are making the lists. And I believe YouTube and maybe the internet itself will literally just kick you off if you don't do something that has a list. So this is my mandatory list show titled The List Show because I'm super creative. As you may or may not be able to tell from behind me, the decorations in this room here, I'm somewhat of a horror movie fan. So of course, today's list is going to be about the top 12 animated films from the Walt Disney Animation Studios. I really did want to do something horror, but I talked to several people and they were like, you should do Disney, you'll get more hits. I do know a little bit about Disney, seeing as I, again, wrote a book about Disney World. Buy it on Amazon. Cheap plug. But I did get prepared for this list by drinking out of my Disney Villains coffee mug. There's not coffee in here. It's cold soda. It's kind of late at night, and I'm not supposed to have coffee late at night. Doctor's orders. And I also have my replica of a gargoyle from the Haunted Mansion behind me holding some candles. He's just kind of here for moral support. Now, the rules of this list, we're going to list 12 because, I don't know, everybody does 10, so I figured 12 is probably a little better than 10. The top 12 animated movies from the Walt Disney Animation Studios. Now, this is just from the Walt Disney Animation Studios. That encompasses 58 films, starting with Snow White and the Seven Dwarves, ending with Frozen 2 from 2019, though the studio does have a new movie coming out in March of 2021. Who knows if that's actually going to come out, or if it's been pushed back, or if it's going to debut on Disney+. I haven't kept up with it, so I don't know. But there's supposed to be one coming out on March 5th. And since this is just the Disney Animation Studios, that means no PiXAR, no live action stuff, no Walt Disney Production Company stuff, just those 58 animated films. So before we get started, I just want to give a shout out to my boys in the Three Caballeros. Donald, Jose, Panchito, I love you guys. I love your ride at Disney World. Your movie, the plot just wasn't great, so you didn't make the top 12, but I want to give you a little shout out to give you some time here.
We're three caballeros, three gay caballeros. They say we are birds of a feather.
Also, before we get to the list, I want you guys to know that I watched Peter Pan for the first time ever. I'm like 90 years old, and I'm just now watching Peter Pan because I thought it may be good enough to crack the top 12, mostly because for most of my life I've had an unhealthy relationship with Tinkerbell. Unfortunately, Peter Pan, kind of a dick, so that movie's not going to be in the top 12. You can scratch that one off the list, so we're down to 57 movies to choose from. No Peter Pan in the top 12. Newsflash. Now let's start the list with number 12, and this actually was about a four-way tie for this spot, but I did choose a more recent film, and by more recent, I mean one that was made in this century, or at least released in this century, and I chose Tangled here, mostly because I thought it was about time that Disney tackled the Rapunzel fairy tale. It also gave Disney a new princess. The storyline's good, even though I don't really understand why her hair is no longer magical when it gets cut. I don't kind of get that. Was there an origin story for her hair? I possibly missed the origin story. But also the animation is really beautiful. I like the lanterns when they go up. There's a really cool bathroom at Disney World decorated for Rapunzel's tower. She probably needs her own attraction at Disney World. Both her parents are alive. She just doesn't know who they are. But they're not dead, so that's a step in the right direction for a Disney film. For number 11, we're going way back into the Disney archives here. We are talking about an elephant that has giant ears. Yes, number 11 is Dumbo. This movie is one of the movies that now has a warning on it before you watch it on Disney Plus. But you gotta feel for Dumbo. He's just trying to do his thing. He's just trying to be an elephant. He happens to have really big ears, so people call him like, big ears. He gets drunk, sees some pink elephants in a scene that probably would never happen in a Disney film today. But the poor guy, they dress him up as a clown, and today you can see the meme where really stupid people are having to put on clown makeup. Dumbo had to do this way back in the day. Literally a clown. So Dumbo sits in at number 11. He had a mom. I don't know where his dad was at, but I don't feel like his dad was dead. I feel like his dad was just like, deadbeat dad, because he's an elephant. They kind of just hit it and move on. I feel like that's what elephants do. Number 10, from the 60s. Maybe you didn't think of this film when you first saw the title, and you're trying to knock off all the 12 films in your head that you would pick. But I chose, for number 10, Sword in the Stone. This is the movie that introduced us to Merlin, who's literally been in every single piece of propaganda ever since this movie came out, even though the movie basically has been forgotten by the Disney company. For number 9, we're going to the late 90s. This is kind of a dark era for Disney. They made some good films, but they just didn't do well in the box office for some reason. People were just tired of Disney in the late 90s. They had moved on to Harry Potter, I suppose. But I really like the movie Hercules here at number 9. One, because I did minor in classical mythology in the 2 years that I was in college. So Hercules is a story that I'm familiar with. I appreciate the Greek chorus aspect of it. I really like Hades as a bad guy. He cracks me up in everything that he's in. For number 8, we're going way back to the beginnings of Disney's movie career, the second movie they ever released, and that is Pinocchio, the story of a wooden boy who wanted to become a real boy and gets to do so with the magic of the Blue Fairy? I don't know what she's called. She's a fairy of some sort. She's an underrated fairy. But what I like about Pinocchio is I really love Pleasure Island. They would never do this in today's world of Disney. I don't know if this one has a disclaimer in front of it or not. It probably should. Because Pinocchio goes to Pleasure Island. He's drinking beer. He's smoking cigars. He's talking about girls. He's turning into a donkey. Then he gets swallowed by a whale. Jiminy Cricket's there. What else do you need? Number 8, best film, Disney Animation Studios of all time, Pinocchio. For number 7, we're staying in that time period of films, because number 7, we're going with the film Fantasia, which has some great music, has some great animation. It's very non sequitur. There's no wraparound story. There's nothing that takes you through all the different scenes. It's literally just, here's some classical music, here's some scenes we drew to the classical music. I'm not telling you to get stoned and watch this. I'm not admitting to getting stoned and watching this. I just think that it would be a really good movie to watch if you were stoned. There are crocodiles dancing with hippos. There are centaurs. There's Sorcerer Mickey screwing things up with brooms that are walking all around with pails of water. Little Fantasia trivia for you here. Mickey wasn't supposed to be the character who was the sorcerer in this film. It was supposed to be Dopey. Dopey was a really popular character at the time. But someone at the animation studio said, you know what? We got to do something with Mickey. He's like our mascot. We got to put him in a movie at some point. Here, let's just give him a wizard's hat and make him move some brooms around and flood things out, because Mickey's always messing crap up. Perhaps the most overlooked Disney villain in the entire Disney villain repertoire is Chernabog from this film. He's literally a demon with giant wings that sits on top of like a volcano, and he calls up demons and spirits and skeletons. And as a horror fan, of course, I love that. I don't know why they don't do more with Chernabog. He should be this big badass villain, like the final boss villain. Screw Maleficent. They seem to love their Maleficent. Chernabog is where it's at. We need a Chernabog shirt, Disney. So for number 6, we're going back to the 90s, the end of that like neoclassical era that kind of revived Disney animation for a while. And we're going with The Lion King here at number 6. If I had a stuffed lion, I would hold him up. We would do the the chant from the beginning of the film. I don't need to tell you why Lion King is great. I think everybody pretty much knows why Lion King is great. I know that the death of Mufasa, spoiler alert, ruined some lives as children. I have a hard time relating to Simba in this scene, even though it's kind of sad, but literally like 5 minutes prior to the scene, he was singing about how he wanted to be king. The only way for that to happen is for your dad to die. So here's your moment. If you're going to sing about it, you got to live it. And I like the hyenas. They kind of make me laugh. So that's why The Lion King comes in the top half of this list at number 6. Number 5, another recent film, and when I say recent, I mean from this century, because I'm old, so the 20 years that have happened in this century seem like 2 years to me. But my number 5 film is The Princess and the Frog. I really like this film because I really like the villain. Dr. Facilier is cool. He talks to spirits. He does voodoo. He's super evil. He kills one of the good guys. How many of the Disney villains can claim that they have killed one of the good guys in their films? Like only Dr. Facilier, honestly. Plus, I love New Orleans. I love the music. I like that there's a crocodile playing a trumpet. Who doesn't like a crocodile playing a trumpet? Who doesn't like beignets? So we have Tiana. She doesn't have a mom. We all know how Disney feels about parents. So on this list so far, we have Tiana doesn't have a mom. Dumbo doesn't have a dad. Rapunzel has both her parents, but she doesn't know who they are. Simba's dad gets killed in front of him. That's several dead parents right there. Coming in at number 4, we're going back to that neo-classical revival. We're going with another Disney princess who doesn't have a mom. We're talking Beauty and the Beast. I had not seen Beauty and the Beast until later in life. I enjoy Gaston. He's very entertaining. But I think this animation style really calls back to earlier Disney films. Even Gaston falling off a cliff is parallel to the fates of some of those early Disney villains. If you look real close, by the way, and you pause at the right moment, you can see little skulls in Gaston's eyes because they couldn't really show him dying, but that's their way of saying, yeah, he's dead. We can show Mufasa dying because he's a good guy, but we can't show Gaston dying. But Belle, she suffers from the Disney princess curse. She doesn't have a mom. Her dad gets thrown in jail. Obviously, he's some sort of deadbeat. And I've eaten at the Beast's Castle at Disney World, and it's lovely. Number 3, from that same era, is a little film that I like to call Aladdin. I call it Aladdin because that's the title of the film. Again, princess curse. Jasmine doesn't have a mom. She just has a dad who's kind of easily manipulated, and Tiger, who also is kind of easily manipulated. She's not really surrounded by a lot of smart folk. But of course, this film rates so high pretty much based on the performance of Robin Williams as the genie. I don't know anyone who doesn't love that performance. A little side shout out to Iago, who's my second favorite character in this film, but there really isn't a bad character. Also, A Whole New World gets stuck in my head at least once a month or so for like 5 hours. Number 2, like I said, I'm a horror fan. We have certain movies that we've adopted as our own, even if they're not horror related, although all of these movies have some horror elements to them. So I'm going with, for number 2, Alice in Wonderland, just because Wonderland is super weird and it would be fun to explore Wonderland. We get some great characters in the Queen of Hearts, the Cheshire Cat, the Smoking Caterpillar, and of course the Mad Hatter and his crew. Who wouldn't want to have a tea party with the Mad Hatter with the Dormouse sleeping in the sugar for the tea? We get to watch walruses manipulate and eat oysters. I mean, I don't know what else you would want out of a film about Wonderland. We got playing cards as people. Once I took a picture with Alice, but I don't know what happened to it. Like it got lost, or the picture didn't take, or we deleted it, or something like that. So Alice hit me up. We got to redo this picture. So that's why it's number 2 on this list. And coming in at number 1, I really wondered if I were to pick this as number 1. I know I like the film. I know it's a historic film, but there really was nowhere else to go with this. That is the original #1 film of the Walt Disney Animation Studio, and that's Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. This film was released in 1937. That's over 80 years ago, and the film still works. Now, I know it's about a 14-year-old girl who gets poisoned and she dies, and then some dude comes along and kisses a dead girl, and then she comes back to life. That's a little weird. I'm not promoting that aspect of it, but the Seven Dwarfs, come on, they're great. Gave us two great characters in Dopey and Grumpy. Little shout out to Sleepy, who's an underrated dwarf, probably the most underrated dwarf. And as I mentioned before, for as much as Disney wants to put Maleficent in charge of the Disney villains, the evil queen here, she actually killed Snow White with a poisoned apple. Now this guy comes along and decides he's going to kiss a dead body, which is a little weird, and that's kind of saves the day. But that doesn't take away from the fact that she actually did kill Snow White, which is a rare occurrence in Disney film. I think the story still holds up, even by today's standards. Now, maybe they wouldn't make the guy kiss a dead girl, because that's a little weird in 2021. Apparently not as weird in 1937. I wasn't around, so I can't really say. Another reason why I like this film, I got invited to have dinner with Snow White and her friends. So for all those reasons, that's why Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs still relevant. Almost 90 years later, that's why it's my #1 film in the Disney Animation Studios filmography. So there you have it. If you have a difference of opinion, you're like, what? How did you possibly leave out this movie? Or how could you put that movie ahead of this movie? Hit me up in the comments. Put in the comments. Subscribe to the show. Hit the notification bell. Subscribe, hit the notification bell. Like the show. Share it with your friends. By the way, Snow White, she didn't have a mom either. She had the evil stepmother. That's another thing in these films. There's no nice step parents.